Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so I want to talk about Anthony Fantano, popular music reviewer. A lot of people probably know him on YouTube, The Needle Drop. One of the most singular, if not the most singularly recognizable name when it comes to music reviewing. He's built a large audience and a lot of name recognition for himself off of that. He's been a pretty controversial figure over the years, either because of like various political skirmishes or just the things that he has had to say about certain people's music. Sometimes artists get mad at him, sometimes fan bases get mad at him, and he has definitely found himself embroiled in controversy over things that he might have said in the past, off-color remarks, or this kind of era of his career where he was doing this like edgelord, dirtbag left kind of comedy thing. So that's essentially what's happening again. On Twitter, a bunch of people are talking about a series of old clips that have all been seen before, of Anthony Fantano either quoting people saying certain slurs, reading off super chats from people that have some kind of off-color remark or slur in them, laughing along with some kind of like weird jokes. And that's about it. Some of the clips look worse than others. Some of them are obvious bullshit. Others are genuinely slightly weird. But all of it is completely taken out of context. And the other thing is that, like, he's talked about this before. So a lot of people already kind of know how they feel about Anthony Fantano because these controversies have come up. He's been very controversial in the hip hop world always, for being a white guy commenting on black artists in a way that some people argue, doesn't have the type of cultural context. And so he kind of misses that mark in some people's view sometimes, which I think is a relatively fair criticism, although I think people allow themselves to hate him way too much over that. But there's a reason for that, which is that he is, like I said, probably the most prominent voice when it comes to music criticism. And if Pitchfork gives you a negative review, that's gonna hit, right? Their scores, they hit. And if you get a negative score in Pitchfork, that still has some relevance even to this day. But it's the platform that has that effect. And it's not so much the singular person. Whereas even though Anthony Fantano has a larger platform, The Needle Drop, and he's building that out with like more written form, music, journalism, and having other hosts on his show, people associate that brand, The Needle Drop, with him. He is The Needle Drop, and everybody knows that, and over the years that has always been the case. So his controversial takes about different people's music have definitely riled up many fan bases, and gotten all kinds of like accusations stirred up about him. He's sexist, he is racist, and this type of stuff doesn't help when it comes to that. It does look bad, but it's kind of stuff that he's dealt with before. There was a piece that The Fader, I think it was, did on him at one point, accusing him of being a racist, and like an alt-right edgelord, whatever, essentially over these same exact clips. So this controversy has already happened before, and it's been kind of recontextualized and reorchestrated. And what I think is the most interesting about this is the way that this is being done. This is obviously sort of like an online operation, like brigading attempt at Anthony Fantano. They're trying to use this stuff to stir up a reaction and get people to kind of cancel him and ultimately hurt his credibility. And that's because people who are fans of Drake find themselves at odds with Anthony Fantano through people like DJ Akademiks, who is the #1 Drake stan, and pretty much exists as a media figure to service whatever Drake's narrative is. That's his job, is to just push the Drake narrative. And Drake has decided, in the wake of losing this beef, and with the extent that he feels like his character was defamed in the course of that, he has decided that he is going to never stop the propaganda effort against Kendrick Lamar and people associated with him, people who push the narratives that are pro Kendrick Lamar, and that would include Anthony Fantano. So what we're seeing here is kind of a microcosm of politics itself, manifested in the aftermath of this like direct head-to-head confrontation between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And so we're seeing echoes of that in this controversy with Anthony Fantano. I don't think a lot of people are taking this that seriously. I think that's a good thing. You know, I have my takes about like how we should handle this sort of thing, and I'll get to that. I'll play a little bit of what Anthony Fantano had to say about these videos. And if you want to go, it's easy to find these videos that came up. I'm not going to play any of them. It doesn't look great, but it's at the end of the day, it's entirely inconsequential, all of it. And so I think he did a decent job in his statement about it. I think people's personal feelings about Anthony Fantano are going to color how they feel about the situation more than anything, and that's fine. But overall, I think my main point here is that I think Anthony Fantano is a useful figure, detached from his music criticism in and of itself. You know, his left-wing commentary and his sort of pushing the narrative, especially in music conversation, to the left consistently is helpful to all of us. So I think he's worth defending in that regard, and I'll get to why later, but let's listen to what he had to say about all of this.
With Exhibit A, this clip right here, which has just been going absolutely viral, and here's my explanation for it. Early on in my YouTube career, I had some pretty lax views when it came to quoting the language of others, and my point of view was, what does it matter? It's not me saying it. I'm relaying a lyric or a sentiment or a point of view expressed by someone else. I extended this attitude into other pieces of content I've made, like this one, where it is also clear I am quoting someone even in the tightly edited state this clip has been presented in. And the reason I'm doing so is to voice disagreement with calling people racial and homophobic slurs as a bit, which is what the original content creator I was quoting was doing. And he himself has since apologized for this whole era of his career, but I'm not getting deeper into the weeds than that because this video isn't about him. Because the fact of the matter is I should have and could have just censored myself while pointing this behavior out. But unfortunately, my position left me feeling kind of nonchalant because it's not the words themselves, but the sentiment of them that's being expressed that's truly disgusting. And sure, while that is true on some level, explicitly quoting him was in bad form and just unnecessary. So I would rather err on the side of caution and not hurt anyone by explicitly voicing language that doesn't exist in a vacuum, even if I am quoting it. And that's actually been my approach for a very long time now. I mean, this clip may be new to you, but it's actually almost 10 years old. If this was ever something I made a regular habit of doing, believe me, you'd be seeing more examples than this. All I can do is take ownership of having quoted these words in this way, and obviously say that I'm sorry, which I am in fact sorry about this. Now, there are going to be some people watching this video who will say, no, that's not enough. I know you're a racist. I saw a clip of you laughing at Trayvon Martin's death, which I guess this is the clip.
Vegan invited me to an event that taught me about PETA's buying guide / neoliberal whiteness and Trayvon Martin. Okay.
Dude, fuck Trayvon. I was thinking Trey Melvin. I had a big thing with Trey Melvin.
Which I will agree, that doesn't look good. But believe it or not, the way this clip has been presented is a lie, and it's been heavily edited too. First off, I gotta say, the Drunken Peasants podcast where I was appearing in that clip is explicitly not a right-wing podcast. While yeah, it's true the show has featured a pretty wild range of guests over the years and the humor tends to run a bit edgy, they also regularly make fun of right-wingers, alt-right psychopaths, and the president. And in this clip that you just saw, I'm reading a super chat that is on the screen that was sent in by a viewer of the show. And the reason I'm jumping into reading it is that partially it is a dig at me, because on the show it's not exactly a secret that I'm an openly liberal vegan. And from there, here is what actually happens.
A vegan invited me to an event that taught me about PETA's buying guide / neoliberal whiteness and Trayvon Martin. Okay.
Dude, Fuck Trayvon. No, oh shit! I was gonna.
You're such an.
I don't know. I was gonna say Trey Melvin, but it's no Trayvon Martin.
Man,
totally
you're
different.
so. You know what, Jeff? You're so right wing.
As you can see there, that is not the clip that is getting passed around. In this original clip, Jeff Holiday there on the podcast doesn't even finish his sentence. He apparently gets Trayvon Martin mixed up with someone else entirely, and I even call him a moron. Because that is obviously something a fucking moron would communicate. So while I know that nobody owes me their forgiveness and I can't control what everyone thinks about me, I'm going to continue to do my best to make sure that I'm not sending across the wrong idea, especially considering a lot of the music I review and endorse on a regular basis deals in some pretty heavy and serious topics that I would be completely in opposition to were I a
all right, so there you have it.
But
I honestly hadn't heard anything about this at all until I saw this video. And, you know, like I said, he's addressed most of this stuff before. And there's some of it that I think some people out there won't find forgivable. Like the idea of this guy cheekily, you know, throwing around slurs in any context, let alone in some context that seem like he is kind of like laughing along with the joke or whatever. You know, that's unacceptable behavior. And there are some people out there that are just never gonna like be able to look at him as a decent person because of that. And that's fine if you feel that way. I understand. I don't think there's any excuse for using slurs, but I think from what I've seen in this context, it's pretty much only in the case of quoting somebody, and he has denounced that logic of, you know, excusing himself for saying slurs and saying that he doesn't do that anymore. So, you know, I mean, he's not the only guy to find himself in that position. I can think of a couple major cases, including Joe Rogan, where somebody had the logic of, you know, over the years of their career where, oh, I'm only saying this because I'm quoting somebody else. I'm reading something that somebody else said. And we shouldn't be afraid of language like that and blah, blah, blah. And then over the years, they end up saying it a lot, you know, and it gets clipped into a longer video. And you watch that and you're like, wow, this looks really bad. So, I mean, that's even what Joe Rogan said about it. Not that I'm a big fan of his or anything, but he said, you know, even me watching that video, I didn't like it. It made me feel bad. So it's like, this is designed that way. And yes, Anthony Fantano shouldn't use language like that, and he doesn't anymore. And by and large, when it comes to piping up about politics and culture and anything like that, Anthony Fantano tends to get it right. He's also, you know, pretty annoying sometimes, but I think he's useful in terms of pushing a left-wing message, and here's why. And this is, I guess, as good a place as any for me to kind of talk about a theory that I've been formulating a little bit in terms of what we need to do in terms of left-wing politics to push it out there further and to compete with what the right is doing in terms of the culture war, which is they have attached themselves to lifestyles and things that people associate with the type of person that they want to be. And so right-wing content no longer just means content about politics from a right-wing perspective. Right-wing content can be exercise content. It can be fitness content. It can be vlogs. It can be travel content. All kinds of stuff. Because they've recognized that by selling a certain lifestyle, you can also make the politics more attractive, and vice versa. You can make a boring person more interesting by giving him an edgy political take. So I think what the right has done effectively is figured out what types of lifestyle, what type of people they want to be targeting their message at, and they have sort of wrapped their personas around the things that appeal to those people. And something that we have on the left as an advantage that we are slipping on a little bit and not using to our advantage enough is that our connections to culture are organic. So the reason that Anthony Fantano tends to come from a left-wing perspective is because he is a person who's interested in music. He engages with music and art deeply. He's dedicated his life to it. And so naturally, he kind of understands the world through a more empathetic and egalitarian lens. And the fact that his platform is not directly attached to left-wing politics, it's not explicitly a left-wing politics or a politics platform at all, makes it more useful that he finds himself on the left and finds himself consistently pushing a sort of left-wing ethic, because he's attached to a lifestyle that other people outside of politics might relate to and might find appealing, whether it's specifically what he does or the music that he associates himself with. The audience that is attracted to Anthony Fantano is not necessarily a political audience. And that is the downside to doing explicitly left-wing political content, is that you are only aiming at people that already identify that way. And so something that I think we need to do better is focus on the aspects of culture that we have deep connections to, and putting ourselves there in a strong way and keeping ourselves there and not allowing any of this fascist disruption that's going to happen over the next few years to dislodge us from our positions in culture. And so Anthony Fantano shouldn't back down because of this. Whether there's people, I'm sure there are people in my audience who don't like him, never want to hear from him again, that's fine. But here's what's going to happen. He's not going to go away because of this. He's gonna stay doing his thing, because ultimately that's what all content creators do. Every content creator, 99% of the time, maybe with the exception of like Jenna Marbles, when they get canceled or whatever happens, they still keep making content. It's just the nature of their audience changes, the nature of their content changes. Maybe they make less. Maybe they pivot to the right, like Russell Brand has done, and try to, get an anti-cancel culture audience. Or they find some way to be more under the radar. But at the end of the day, most of the time, people don't go away just because one of these controversies happens. And Anthony Fantano is not going to go anywhere. And so all I'm saying is that we should not take the bait when it comes to consistently bringing this up as a way to hurt his credibility. Because the people who have stirred this controversy up, which is people that are in the sort of pro-OVO, DJ Akademiks orbit, they're going to keep bringing this up because this is specifically about hurting his credibility. They want him to be less socially influential. And so if we take the bait on that and follow suit and help them degrade his credibility, all that's going to do is leave us in a position where people like DJ Akademiks continue to be more influential. His audience is not going to abandon him over anything, even the recent creepy shit that he has been outed for doing. They don't care about that. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have any standards at all. I'm saying that this stuff about Anthony Fantano doesn't meet the standard. It's too old to meet the standard. If this was recent behavior, that would be a different conversation. But I think people need to recognize who the messenger is here and what their intentions are. And Elon Musk has essentially turned Twitter into a platform that is designed to do this, these exact type of operations. And up and down in Anthony Fantano's replies and in the discourse surrounding this, you see all kinds of weird bot, blue check behavior, people who are obviously paid accounts, people in the DJ Akademiks orbit that are constantly saying weird things, and they're all just pushing this pro-Drake agenda. So all Elon Musk has done is turn Twitter into a place that you can more easily funnel money into if you want to push your propaganda narrative. There was a new study that came out that said around 50% of engagement on the internet is fake, like bots, which includes 75% of Twitter. That's one study saying this. I don't know how they arrived at that, but they're saying 75% of activity on Twitter is bots. And so that doesn't just mean people who are tweeting. It means which tweets get the most likes, the most engagement, and get pushed to the top of the algorithm. And so Elon Musk has put essentially the right-wingers and the creeps like DJ Akademiks and his followers in control of the cancel culture levers of power on Twitter. And so that's what they're doing here. And I know that when you look at any of these individual cases, it's easy to say, well, there's some really problematic behavior here, and why would you even say this, and what did you mean by this, and back then you did this thing, and how do I know you've really changed, and how can I blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, we need as many people harmonizing on the same message, specifically like an anti-Zionist and something that cuts to the core of what needs to change about society in its current form. As many people need to harmonize about that message as possible. And that is a message that Anthony Fantano, echoes. I've heard him do it recently. So that's the most important thing. And it's important to police that a little bit and make sure that you don't have people in your ranks that are going to drag down the movement, make people uncomfortable, make people unsafe, do weird things. But at the end of the day, we need momentum in this movement. What we do not need is a ton of inward focused conflict. And so I think it's an energy thing. I mean, you can always do that conflict. You can always pick apart the behavior of whoever you're aligning yourself with at any time. You always can do that. There's always valid reasons to do that. But at the end of the day, is that what's helping? I think we need to make a lot of progress. I think that we have set ourselves back by focusing too much on scrutinizing each other. And we need to focus on harmonizing on a message that's going to like push things back in the right direction. Maybe the infighting made more sense when people on the left of the spectrum had more power, but they're losing that power. So we need to focus on pushing messages and pushing types of discourse that is going to move us forward and not backward.